Marvel Rivals just released their brand new Season 1.5 update, and we got two new heroes, The Thing and Human Torch, a new map called Central Park, game-changing changes to in-game currency, and 23 hero balances. In this video, I'll be going over all the buffs and nerfs that each character has received. Alright, let's talk about Captain America. He got some nice buffs this patch. First off, he can now shield himself in midair, which makes him harder to take down. His vibranium energy source is also faster now. Its projectile speed went from 60 to 80 meters per second, and when it bounces between enemies, it moves even quicker, going from 100 to 150 meters per second. And finally, his ultimate costs less energy now, dropping from 3,100 to 2,800, so you'll be able to use it more often. Next up, we've got Venom. His Frenzy of Rival ability got a big change. Instead of knocking enemies into the air, it now pulls them toward him. This makes it easier to keep enemies close and follow up with more attacks. His ultimate also got a buff. The energy cost has been reduced from 2,800 to 2,500, so you'll be able to use it more often. Now, let's talk about Thor. His Awakening Rune ability got a change. Before, it would reset all his cooldowns after it ended. Now, instead of resetting, it lets him use his abilities right away. This makes his combos flow a lot better and keeps the action going without any downtime. Next, we got Groot with a small buff to one of his walls. The damage wall's placement range has been increased from 15 meters to 18 meters. Next, we got Magneto with a slight nerf and a buff. His primary attack's damage has been increased from 35 to 40, and his shield's duration has been reduced from 2 seconds to 1.5 seconds. Up next, we have everyone's favorite, Doctor Strange. He received a slight nerf with his HP being reduced from 650 to 600. This change was likely made because he was the most picked tank in the first half of the season. Up next, we have Ironfist. His basic attack has been nerfed, dealing less damage across all forms. However, his secondary attack got a buff. It now deals damage based on 1.7% of the enemy's maximum health, making him more effective against tanks. On the healing side, he's gotten some nice buffs. His maximum self-healing has increased from 50 to 150 HP, and his block healing has gone up from 150 to 200 HP. To top it off, his base health has been increased from 250 HP to 300 HP, making him a bit more durable in fight. Now, let's talk about Ironman. His Unibeam just got a solid buff. The base damage per second has been increased from 120 to 140, giving him a bit more firepower. And if you're using the upgraded version, that damage jumps from 180 to 190, making his beam even more deadly in battle. Next up, we've got Hawkeye, and he's received a handful of buffs to make him more effective in combat. First, his health has been increased from 250 HP to 275 HP, giving him a bit more survivability. His blast arrow has also been adjusted. The explosion damage has been boosted from 20 to 32. But a direct hit now deals slightly less, dropping from 20 to 15. Persistent Slash now has a shorter cooldown, reduced from 12 seconds to 10, allowing for more frequent use. And finally, his ultimate got a nice buff. Ghost arrows now deal 1.35 times more damage, and his bow draw speed has been increased, making his shots faster and deadlier. Next up, we've got Storm. She got a small nerf to her long-range damage. Before, her attacks started losing power at 30 meters with a 70% fall-off, but now it drops to 60%, making her slightly weaker at a distance. Her weather control ability also got adjusted. She now gets less of a personal damage boost, but her allies in the radius will deal more damage instead. So, she's a bit less of a solo powerhouse, but gives more support to her team. Next, we've got Starlord. His jetpack fuel got a nice buff, increasing from 1,200 to 1,800. This means he can stay in the air longer, giving him more mobility and better positioning during fights. Scarlet Witch got a buff for her ultimate. Now, when she activates it, she gains 100 bonus health right away. But this extra health doesn't last forever. It slowly ticks down by 50 per second after the ultimate ends. So, she gets a temporary boost to help her stay in the fight a little longer. Our friendly neighborhood Spiderman got a small but useful buff. His web clusters now recharge faster, going from 3 seconds to 2.5 seconds per cluster. This means he can use them more often, giving him better mobility and more chances to lock down enemies. Moonknight's ultimate got an adjustment. His Talon projectiles now fire a bit slower, but they deal more damage per hit. This change also helps fix an issue where enemies could sometimes take double damage by mistake, making his ultimate more consistent. Black Widow got a couple of solid buffs. First, her ammo capacity got a big increase, going from 8 to 15 rounds per mag, letting her stay in the fight longer before needing to reload. Her ultimate also got stronger. The slow effect has been boosted from 55% to 80%, making it much harder for enemies to escape. On top of that, Enemies caught in the slow field now take 15% more damage, making her even deadlier when setting up kills. Up next, we've got Magik. She got a small nerf to her Demon's Rage creature. Its damage per second has been reduced from 80 to 72, making it a bit less punishing. But on the bright side, her ultimate now costs less energy, dropping from 3,700 to 3,400, so she'll be able to use it more often. Up next, we've got Hela. Her Nightsword Thorn ability has been adjusted. Its damage falloff at 30 meters has increased from 70% to 80%. This means she'll deal less damage at longer ranges, but she still remains a strong mid to long range suppressor. Now let's talk about Mr. Fantastic. His E ability got some nice buffs. It now knocks enemies back on hit, has a larger radius, increasing from 2.5 meters to 5 meters, and can now hit multiple targets at once, making it much more effective in fights. His ultimate also got a boost. It now deals 70 damage per hit instead of 50. And just like before, the damage stacks over time. Plus, the radius has been increased, making it easier to land hits on multiple enemies. Next up, we've got Adam Warlock. His base attack got a solid buff. Its damage has been increased from 55 to 60, giving him a bit more firepower. On top of that, his damage falloff at 40 meters has been adjusted, going from 50% to 60%, which means he'll be more effective at longer ranges. Now, let's talk about one of the most anticipated heroes, Cloak and Dagger. Their ultimate Eternal Bond got some major changes. The energy cost has increased from 3,400 to 4,000, but in return, the healing per segment has been buffed from 220 per second to 250 per second. However, healing effects no longer stack, meaning if multiple healing segments overlap, only one will apply. The duration of the ultimate has been slightly reduced from 10 seconds to 8 seconds, but the pause time between healing segments has been shortened, going from 1 second to 0.67 seconds, making healing more frequent. Also, camera control is now unlocked during the ultimate, giving players more flexibility while using it. Their terror capability also got a buff. Enemies hit by it now take 28% more damage, up from 20%. Luna Snow got a huge nerf this patch. Her ultimate now costs more energy, increasing from 4,000 to 4,500, meaning it'll take a bit longer to charge up and use. Loki got a mix of buffs and nerfs this time around. His ultimate now costs more energy, going up from 3,400 to 4,000, so you won't be able to use it as often. But on the bright side, his mystical missile ability got a buff. Its ammo capacity increased from 10 to 12 per clip, giving him more shots before needing to reload. Next, we've got Invisible Woman, who received a nerf to her ultimate. Its energy cost has increased from 4,000 to 4,300. Now, we are going to see the pick rates start dropping. And now finally, we are going over the team-up abilities. Atlas Bond, the team-up between Luna Snow and Ironfist, got a buff. Luna Snow's Frozen Chai now heals 75 instead of 50, and the slow effect on enemies increased from 20% to 30%. The dimensional shortcut team-up between Black Panther and Psylocke got a buff to improve their sustained combat. The rewind time for both Psionic Disc and Wakandan Master has been reduced from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. Also, the conversion ratio of lost health to blue armor has been increased from 0.5 to 0.8. This is the most anticipated nerf of the patch. Gamma Charge has finally been toned down. Hulk has been a near instant ban in high ranks, mainly because of this team-up ability. Now, the damage from Unibeam, Gamma Overdrive, has been reduced from 220 per second to 200 per second, making it less oppressive. On top of that, Hulk's team-up anchor health bonus has been cut down from 150 to 100, making him slightly easier to take down. This change should finally make Hulk a more balanced pick instead of a must-ban nightmare. Moonknight and Cloak and Dagger's Lunar Force team-up just got a solid buff. Now, Full Moon will continuously heal Moonknight for 25 HP per second while he's inside the effect area, giving him better sustain after using the ability. The Symbiote Bond team-up between Penny Parker and Spiderman just got a major survivability buff. For Spiderman, his suit expulsion duration has been reduced from 4 seconds to 1 second, but instead of just reducing damage by 50%, he now gets full invincibility during that time. Same for Penny Parker. Her armor expulsion duration has been cut from 4 seconds to 2 seconds, and instead of 50% damage reduction, she also gets complete invincibility during the effect. This makes both heroes much harder to take down when using their team-up ability. And that wraps up all the buffs and nerfs in the Season 1.5 patch. Let me know what you think of these changes in the comments. Don't forget to drop a like, subscribe so you don't miss any future updates.